So our project is the role name is Moving Beyond the Solidarity Rhetoric in Global Health. That was the longer version of the name. So we shortened it to Global Health Solidarity. This project is funded by Wellcome Trust and it started in 2023. It's going all the way to 2027. The goal is to shift understandings and practices of solidarity in global health. We believe that solidarity can play a more active role in increasing equity and justice. And we do this in 3 phases. The longer phase we've just completed is in identifying the understandings of solidarity in a different context. We have moved to different parts of the world and listening to the people's voices on what solidarity is and how they understand it to be and how they practice it. Phase 2 is now already ongoing, where we are synthesizing all this and we are going to draw up any actionable goals or principles that guide solidarity in global health. And then we look to create or co-create with you an index or a tool that will account and hold global health funders or actors, people acting in the funding space, to be accountable to solidaristic ideals. Now, what you're seeing here is our presence, and we have implementing partners in all parts of the world, as you can see. And we had our 5th workshop in India. So the orange balloons show where we have held our regional workshops. This is not only the work we're doing, we also do qualitative interviews. We've also done case studies and we've done literature reviews on this topic. But I was showing you where we've done the regional workshops to give you context of where this webinar is coming from, because our speakers attended our 5th workshop, which was held in September in New Delhi. And now we are here to discuss some of the perspectives from that workshop, but also from their contexts. So I'll stop sharing from here and I will invite Ashish Giri, who is the regional lead for the region, to ground us in some regional context and offer brief reflections on the project activities in this region. Ashish, say a few words about yourself, tell us about the activities in the region, and usher us into the speaker discussions. Over to you.
Thank you, Julian, and a very warm welcome once again to all our participants. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on wherever you are. As Julian mentioned, my name is Ashish Kiri, and I'm the research manager for the project in the Indian subcontinent. And as part of the project, we've done 3 main activities in the region. First, we've engaged widely with different types of stakeholders, ranging from people in the community, academia, policy, research, to kind of understand their interactions with solidarity and their understanding of solidarity. The second activity, we've also conducted 3 case studies looking at community-based practices of solidarity. For these 2 activities, we've specifically focused on the Himalayan region, primarily for 2 reasons. First, given the climatic and geographic isolation and challenges people in the Himalayas, or there has been socio-cultural adaptation that prioritizes relationships, and we were interested in how that shapes understanding or practices of solidarity. And also because these people, because of the geographic isolation, do not find their voices heard often in conversations like this and in policy space. The third and final activity, like Julian mentioned, we conducted a regional workshop in New Delhi. The participation here was wider. We had more participation across India and Nepal. And we had a wide range of topics, starting from community-based practices of solidarity, moving on to solidarity and its role in indigenous and minority movements like climate change, or for language rights, or for Dalit rights. Then we moved on to also looking at health systems aspects, looking at LGBTQ and mental health and solidarity, community health workers like ASHA, and how solidarity plays a role within the ASHA network, but also in the community at large. And then also looked at how research in global health and partnerships and funding are influenced by solidarity or the lack of it, and how that could be challenged. So this webinar kind of tries to build on those conversations further, and also to share some of what we've discussed with a larger network. So very warm welcome once again to all of you to this workshop. And today we have three speakers, Dr. Vimal Kumar, Ms. Tashi, Lhazom, and Professor Sundar, who are going to talk on the role of solidarity and caste discrimination, solidarity and climate disaster, extreme climate weather events, and institutionalized and relevance of solidarity in institutions and policy space. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome our first speaker, um, Dr. Vimal Kumar. Um, Dr. Kumar is a leading voice in caste justice and grassroots leadership. Dr. Kumar is a next generation leader at the McCain Institute and an Acumen Fellow, and the founder of the Democratizing Leadership Initiative and the Movement for Scavenger Community, an organization dedicated to ending manual scavenging in India and advancing the rights, dignity, and representation of the scavenger community. As one of the few members of the manual scavenging community to access higher education, Dr. Kumar brings a rare and invaluable insight into the lived realities of caste based oppression. He uses his experience to highlight the structural injustices, intergenerational discrimination, and everyday violence that continues to shape Dalit and scavenger communities across India. Through MSc, he leads work focused on eradication of manual scavenging, expanding access to education, creating alternative livelihoods, and raising awareness about caste based systems that sustain these practices. His leadership centers dignity, solidarity, and empowerment, placing the community at the heart of its own liberation. Today, Dr. Kumar will speak on caste and solidarity within Dalit and manual scavenging communities, offering grounded reflection on structural challenges and community driven solidarities that can resist erasure and reclaim agency. Thank you, Dr. Kumar, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashish, and entire team, Professor Caesar, and all the people. And I'm lucky we met in Delhi and got an opportunity to meet all of you amazing people. And this is the result of that meeting. We are again on the screen again, standing with each other with solidarity, And yes, so yeah, so I'm going to talk about the solidarity within Dalits and sweeper communities in India, especially. So I should start with my morning message. Usually at my hometown in Haryana, I have my school friend, and he sent me a video of a city today morning, and I was watching that video. So that video was about a monkey. A monkey died just because of electric shock in a tower, and the other monkeys was standing on the rooftop, and roadside and watching the other monkey and shouting and not happy and sad to see the other monkey died due to the electric shock. And my friend was removing the dead monkey from the road, you know, uh, to send in a particular space. So I was thinking like the monkeys, even monkeys, animals, they are sad to see other monkey died just because of the electric shock or other reasons. So they are sensitive. They are surrounded. They are standing watching the other monkey from the rooftops and the other roadside other side, to the other monkey. But why we human divided into categories? Monkeys don't have the caste and the things. The monkeys are monkey, and humans are humans. But why we are divided in our society? So it's shocking and it's sad for our society, which I am going to bring it today, which is so important for the solidarity, to achieve that goal. So this picture on my first slide, you can see that the three pictures. One is standing with the broom. He's my childhood friend. We played together, and still our houses are together in the same ghetto. In the middle, you can see the person in the sewage, in the gutter, cleaning the shit. The third is a woman cleaning the dry latrine. So this practice called the manual scavenging, and the identity became these peoples, our people, the sanitation workers, sweeper communities, or bungi different names. So why we have this category? So we have in India we have the caste system. The first on the top you can see the Brahmins. They are in academia. They are priests. They have all the knowledge, and it seems like they are knowledge giver. The second category is the Kshatriya in this hierarchy. They are like a protector, warrior, and all these things. The third is Vaishyas. Those are doing businesses. The most of the businessman communities is belongs to the particular caste in India. And the fourth category is Shudras, like the servant communities, the service provider, those who provide services like a barber, the washerman, and other stuff. And the fifth category, those are not even considered valuable in our system. They are outcast people, and they are also called avarna, outcast or broken people. The fifth category. So the sanitation workers, the sweeper community, or our people, they are considered outcast, like we are not part of the society. That's why we live outside in the village, outside in the city. You can visit any village in India, you can find our people outside of village. So the structure of the village, structure of the society, the city and the towns is they follow the caste system. And you can track the services as well. You can get good water close to in the center of the village. But when you go to the outside, the communities, the lower caste lives or outcast people live, they don't have sewage system. They don't have water facilities. They don't have still electricity at their houses. They live in worst condition. So you can just take a walk and you can feel the caste system in India by visiting a village or visiting a town or city, whatever. You can easily see that. So in the next slide, you can see. So in India, we have like Criminal Tribes Act. It was there once upon a time at the time of Britishers. And by birth, some communities considered as the, criminal, criminal tribes. If something bad happened in the city, like thievery or murder or something, so police come and catch our people, because we are like, our identity is like that, made by society, is by birth. So we have different derogatory names in our society. The sanitation workers called by different names like Chandals, Untouchables, Lower Caste, Dalit, Criminal Tribes, Bhangi, Mehtar, Sweepers. And this is not only in India. You can find the same category of names in India, in Nepal, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh as well. So this is the identity and the structure of the society. So by following this structure and the identity, can we imagine the practice of solidarity in our society? Because it's already divided. It's already a lot of huge gap in our society. We practice untouchability. We consider people, the other human, untouchable or lower caste people, like that. So the third slide, you see, so this is not only about untouchability. This is also a system of punishment in our society. It's like if I am working at someone's house as a sanitation worker to clean their toilet. So it's not only about a job. It's also about a system. The first thing, like at the time of solar eclipse or moon eclipse in India, uh, they donate a particular stuff to the lower caste people, to the sanitation workers, like the mustard oil, the black lanterns, black cloth, all this, to pass the bad vibes. There is a very interesting book called The Poison in the Gift, which is, which mention all these practices in that book. Feel free to read that for a more understanding. So the So the second is the dark nights. Also, they give this type of things to pass the bad vibes, to us, and we can't deny that. If our people deny to receive that stuff, they will not give us job. It's historically it's happening since generation. It's happening. The third is the death rituals. So the death rituals in our society, you know, it's happening. We have to burn. If you go to the Banaras and other stuff, Kashi, you can find our people are burning the dead bodies, the messenger of death or bad news, and leftover food in broken, dirty cups, plates. They serve us because they want to tell you don't have dignity. So this type of system we are experiencing since generations. You know, uh, so and in the fourth slide, yeah, I think we have three slides. Yeah. So this system, and now we talk about solidarity. So my question is that if we have this system, if we have the caste system, you know, rooted in our veins, in our blood, in our society, can we think about solidarity in this thing? So now I want to say thanks to all the team here for giving me this opportunity, because most of the programs or the seminars and workshops and big international programs, they don't allow our people to speak. So I think my voice is a sign we are in the way to practice solidarity. So we need to accept the voices, allow them to speak, to practice more solidarity. So, so my question or my concern is that how we can work together, because we are at the margin experiencing this type of life and discrimination from the society, and we are ready. We are already doing that. So this situation created among our society an atmosphere of solidarity. Because we don't have a support from outside. So we have only one option. We have to support each other. We have to help each other. That's how we learn how to live in a difficult situation, how to live in trauma, how to live when people hate you, you know, how to face the haters in your everyday life. That's why my research is also about the caste and dominance in everyday life, because I experienced a lot with my community. And now, but question is that, we need to disturb that peace. People said everything is peaceful, they are living peacefully, they are not disturbing us. But that is not a peace, that is impunity, because we are not allowing voices to speak, to participate in the activities of our society. So now it's time to work with each other, to understand each other, and from learn each other and cross the borders of that inequality or untouchability, to support each other. That then only we can work for a bigger vision. We can achieve that goal. So this is my view, and I'm always open for that, to stand, to support, uh, to help the people in the surrounding, to fill that, to fill the gap of that inequality which is already in our society. So yeah, so this is my concern, and I think I don't want to take more time. It's already 10 minutes. I think I took my time, so I'm respectful for the time, and feel free to ask more things during the Q&A. Yeah, thank you so much, Ashish.
Thank you. Thank you, Vimal, for your presentation, so vividly describing the realities of living in a caste divided society, and how solidarity could be a hope or a tool that could be used to blur some of these margins and bring people together. Um, Now, moving on to our next speaker, I would like to invite her to share her thoughts and presentation with us. Miss Tashi Lhazom is a youth climate advocate and an award-winning documentary filmmaker. Tashi works at the powerful intersection of climate justice, gender, Indigenous rights, bringing forward stories and perspectives that are too often left out of the mainstream narrative. Her debut film, No Monastery, No Village, was released in 2024 and has received international acclaim, winning Best Short Documentary at Nepal America International Film Festival and becoming a finalist at the Banff Mountain Film Festival, one of the world's most prestigious platform for mountain and environment cinema. A co-founder of Born to Lead, a female led collective from Upper Humla, Tashi has been at the forefront for advocating for ethnic recognition, indigenous identity, and rights in Nepal. Her activism blends research, filmmaking, and community mobilization, recognizing that creativity is a form of resistance. Her award winning film, created in her own language, Limikai, humanizes climate change by showing how it threatens not only landscape, but cultural memory, language, and identity. The film has sparked international conversation from UNESCO to universities like Stanford, Columbia, and Toronto on the cultural dimension of climate loss. At the webinar, Tashi will be speaking on solidarity in the context of climate disaster, exploring how communities, government, and international bodies understand and act differently in vulnerable settings. Thank you so much, Tashi, for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Ashish, for such a wonderful introduction and for also making me a part of integral part of this beautiful, much needed conversation on solidarity. So hello everyone, namaste. Namaste is my national greeting to all of you, and Tashi Delek, which is my indigenous greeting to all of you. And both of this means that I respect the soul in you, which is also in me. So more or less something like that. Um, I'm from Nepal, and as you everybody here might already know how Nepal is currently at a very pivotal political landscape, and we brought this big movement called Gen Z Movement Nepal that led to the collapse of the government and the House of Parliament, leading to the birth of new government that was selected, not elected, selected by the Gen Zs, and I'm one of the Gen Z, and I'm very proud to tell the international community here that in the protest, the three or four of us happens to be from a climate change background. We were able to mobilize people for political cause because we had experiences of mobilizing young people for climate actions. So one of the prominent Gen Z face, I happen to be one of them, and I owe it to my climate activism. It gave me so much leadership power and all of that. And another is my friend called Tanuja. So all in all, I'll tell a story about how I come into this climate activism space, and it has to do with where I come from and what community I belong to. Um, so initially, when I was taught about climate change, it was taught in such a way that I am doing a favor to the polar bears in the global north, sorry, in the polar regions. Then I realized only to realize the lived reality tells you that the marginalized community across the world is getting more marginalized, getting further marginalized because of the climate vulnerabilities and climate change crisis. And in Nepal, country like Nepal, climate change issue become very prominent, not because is a vulnerable country to it, which it is, but because the communities own it as its problem. We have so many problems, like we have, okay, let's say sexual harassment problems, so many problems. But then climate change, it becomes such an issue where communities would own it. A marginalized community were made aware that they were at the forefront of the climate climate disasters. So hence they were equipped, not everybody, but at least in the narratives they were made to feel that they have to take the ownership of the problem, so that they will advocate for it politically, systematically, and all of that. So the village that I come from is called Limi Valley in northwestern corner of Nepal. It is known, and it is in the heart of the Himalayas. So I know that people across the world love to glorify Himalayas because it's very beautiful, and so no wonder it's glorified. And so does the mainstream Nepal also does so many glorification of it. And in fact, our entire tourism industry is based on how much can we sell the mountain. But the pain of mountain people, what it means to be living, being a mountain person in the time of changing climate, that only mountain people would know it so much better. I realized that initially so many people from the mainstreams in general were talking about mountain issue a lot without engaging mountain people. They were telling our stories without us. They were making decisions about us without us. And for me, that did not sit well, because I was like, if this is about us, we should be at the center of it. We should be leading it. But we are put at the marginalized. And this, I believe, is coming from a colonial thinking that mountain people are vulnerable. They are suffering from climate crisis, so we should help them, rather than saying we should empower them so that they can help themselves. So such has been my experiences with the mainstream climate activism. And then I started raising my own voice through so many mediums, including filmmaking. And filmmaking, protesting on the streets, writings, and giving awareness programs like this and all of this. And but most importantly, my what made me so different from the other climate activists in Nepal is because I engage with the government a lot. I do not like fighting with the system, because it's a very difficult task. But I find it inevitable. No one grows up thinking that their dream is to become, when they become old, when they grow bigger, their goal is to fight with the system. But when you're a minority and when you are the vulnerable, that is not the option. To have a sustainable change, you engage the government. So I engage the government a lot on so many policy reforms and all of this. But all the policy reform requires the grassroots people's consent, support. Without that, it just become another climate activist crying about their village. So my biggest goal, my biggest challenge was making my own people inform about certain policies that would impact them. And one of such policy is called other effective conservation measures policy, which Nepal has a long history of having a very, very colonized, very, very terrible conservation policy that has antagonized indigenous people in the name of conservation. In fact, Amnesty International published a report saying that that indigenous people today, the Nepal's conservation success, came at the cost of indigenous people's compromisation of their human rights. So, so because Nepal government faced a lot and lot of criticism for this successful conservation methods, they decided to name it different, rebrand it, and then they start preaching that this is a new conservation policy, which is called OECM, Other Effective Conservation Measures. And in the OECM, community like mine, which are not a part of the traditional national conservation system, are being put into it as a model community. And I look into it and I realize that, oh no, this is a replication of the same policy, same very toxic policy, where it's like where they pitch you against your own land, where they pitch you, where they say that, oh, conserving the animal is far more important than conserving the lives that has conserved those animals for centuries. So for me, it was to tell my people that I want you to raise voice against it, because I can go to the government alone and tell that this is not right and wrong, and they may not listen to me. But when you are living in a democratic country, you have to use those rights that is given by the democratic society, that is the voices of people. So I decided to first make an awareness of what does it mean for us. That means if we become a part of that conservation policy, we lose the ownership of a customary ownership of our own ancestral lands, and this would come under the central government's jurisdiction. Until so far, the our lands are still under our own indigenous jurisdiction. How we are governing it in a way that we want it to be governed, but that policy would impact us. So my first goal was to let the people know that this how big of an atrocity this is for us, and that and once I have the base, the people speaking against it, the community speaking against it, then it was very easy for me to advocate it at the national level. So one of that, and another is that um, it it's really interesting. As everybody here knows, Nepal has Mount Everest. So if anything happens in the Mount Everest, let's say landslide, avalanche, flood, then the entire world would notice it. And sometimes the very concept of Nepal to many people in the world would be, oh, it's just a land of Everest or something like that. But if a similar flood, similar avalanche, similar landslide happens in another rural corner of Nepal, then let alone the world noticing it, not even Nepal would notice it. So there is a disparity in how the government reacts and responds to the climate disasters, depending on which place you come from, or which place where it has happened. If it has happened in the popular mountain areas, Nepal has so many high mountain areas. Then the government would take prompt action, would do so many relief distribution materials, and the people would get better mitigation, better adaptation, better green climate funds. But if it happened on another mountain places where, let's say, there is no popular mountains, then it's almost like you deserve to suffer alone because there is no popular mountain in your community. So such has happened in my community because we don't necessarily have 8,000 meter above sea level mountains. We have so many 6,000 mountains, but 6,000 meter tall mountain is nothing in Nepal, unfortunately. In 2000, and I will back my statement with the case story. That is to say that in 2011, my village faced a glacier lake outburst flood, and it was very massive. It almost carried the entire village. um but did the people receive help? No. Did the people know that it was caused by climate change? No, because we are the people there are living, we are mostly the community that has been deprived of so many rights, including right to education. And we are Buddhist community. So the flood happened, and then the community rationalized it, saying that, oh, maybe perhaps we might have done something bad in the past life, and today the god is angry, the Buddha is angry, the mountain gods are angry, and that's why it unleashed its wrath. Rather than blaming it on climate change, they decided to blame it among themselves and their previous life. And for me, it was difficult to know that the real culprit is on the other side of the continent. Extractive capitalism, and here my people are paying the prices of it and still blaming on themselves. So the government did not know about this flood. They only knew about this flood after 2 years. After 2 years, in 2013, then only my village received immediate relief after 2 years. And this show you disparity in how a government like Nepal would react to the disasters, depending on where you are, which community you belong from. And all of these made me even make me think that I have no choice but to fight for the community and bring the government closer to the community, rather than bringing the community closer to the. I mean, so most of the time the narrative is that, oh, you people live very very remote, it's difficult to access, and that's why you don't get the facilities, whereas the constitution would be saying that everyone is equal in the eyes of law and all of that. So that's how my story, the inspiration that I got from, it's always lead me back to how the state has been cruel to certain peoples, more, and uh, the in the international level, the climate collaboration is very interesting. From a country to country, the climate diplomacy is it is of course not given primary. It's not held at the important level. It's always like Nepal is one of those countries that receives a lot of green climate funds, but they also make it. But this doesn't come without something that you have to offer in return. And for a country like Nepal, we receive lots of, let's say, loans, climate loans from banks like Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, and all of this. Um, but at the same time, we are a melting country that whose glaciers are melting, and for us, the glaciers melting is not just a bunch of ice melting. It is the third pole of the world, and it is a water bank for us, and those are melting. And for a mountain community, glacier is not just a source of water. It is our identity, it is our culture, it is our heritage. What is mountain without snow? Then mountain is just a big rock, a big black standing tall rock. It's not even a mountain. The essence of a mountain is the snow, and that very is vanishing. So I feel like the world still do not understand the gravity of climate crisis and climate implications that the minority communities have to bear. Communities, those at the forefront. I mean, how are you going to repay? I mean, if an infrastructure is carried away, you can build the infrastructure. But if a culture is lost because of climate crisis, how are you going to, I don't know, repay it? How are you going to make it up? These are irreplaceable things are being lost. Intangible cultural heritages are being lost because of climate crisis, and international community still need to look into those perspectives. Um, and for a global South, while we focus a lot on South-South solidarity, I feel like we actually need to work, not like the North really have to stay committed to what it has committed, such as $100 billion grant green climate funds and all of this. South-South solidarity is always there. I feel like we the South-South solidarity is can also be made because we all can bond on the trauma that is given to us by global North. But because the power, the resources is with the global North, it's high time that we unite and speak out, at the big climate negotiations and all of this. And I look forward to hearing more questions. I am not sure if I have stick to my point of talking, but climate change really is a huge issue here. And whenever we talk about climate change, I think those people who are affected the most should be at the forefront of decision making. And we really need to decentralize how we talk about how we do climate activism, how we bring climate funds
Thank
in
you.
the community. Yeah,
Thank you.
is
Thank
my
you so
time
much.
up?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tashi. I think you really so vividly shared your experiences and reminded us once again that solidarity is not charity, but it involves empowering. It is actually empowering and places people at the center, and at times also involves challenging and fighting against systems and structures that divide us. Thank you so much. Now, moving on to our final speaker, Professor T. Sundaraman. and it is my joy to introduce him today. Professor Sundar is one of South Asia's most influential voices in health system strengthening, public health policy, and people's health movements. With over 4 decades of experience shaping national health strategies, community health programs, and global health advocacy, his work continues to define what solidaristic practice can look like in policy and institutions. Professor Sundar played a central role in designing and implementing India's National Rural Health Mission and ASHA, the nationwide community health workers program. He also led the committee that developed the blueprint for India's transition to comprehensive primary healthcare, Ayushman Bharat's health and wellness centers, and contributed to shaping India's National Health Policy 2017. Alongside his institutional leadership, he's maintained a lifelong commitment to people's health movement, advocating for health rights, social rights, and equitable systems, and has published over 100 papers, book chapters, as well as 2 books. We are honored to have Professor Sundar join us to speak on solidarity from a policy and institution perspective and how systems can either enable or constrain the solidarities communities build every day. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish, for having me. Let me start with first expressing my solidarity to both Dr. Vimal and Tashi. Such passion, such brilliance, and such they touch the heart of the problem. And this is a story of very local story, but at the same time, it has such global relevance. So, in salute to them and solidarity to them before I start a more didactic description of some of the problems. To some extent, they bring out why we need solidarity as the overwhelming value. In healthcare, it has a special role. Solidarity rests on mutual trust. It is a mutual self help, it is a mutual help of each other, an experience that happens necessarily in a collective. It rises in the context of its historical rise in health systems in a trade union context. And trade unions still stand a lot by this word of solidarity, where we stick together. And the very first health systems that even the state started came as a response to trade unions, in this instance in Germany, putting together a risk pool voluntarily so that they could, in solidarity, take care of one of their members who becomes sick. Seeing the power of solidarity, the state intervened to set up the first state care health system so that the entire thing does not lead to strengthening of the working people on that. So solidarity has been always very resistant, a force of resistance. It's a resistance against potential state power, against corporate power, against the power of capital. But it is also a form of coping with markets and the complete unfreedom that is related with markets in this. And part of the reason is that healthcare is really not a commodity. And in that sense, as we can sort of listen, if we listen carefully to what Tashi is saying, nor is tourism. I mean, I usually contrast healthcare with hospitality and hospitality markets work. But I dare not say that. And you see the entire degradation that has been led to a market led understanding of tourism, all that. But healthcare has a particular set of problems. Here, the purchaser is faced with uncertainty. He doesn't know what he needs, when he needs, and neither is the provider able to give assurance. There is a high degree of uncertainty, and this calls for risk pooling in the sense of solidarity. The risk pool itself implies solidarity on that. And it also means that there is a huge degree of information asymmetry. So you don't know when you bring in, say, pay for a doctor's services. You are in effect transferring powers to him to take decisions regarding your body on his information, because all those decisions can't be taken and you have to believe he does it on trust. But too often, the interests of what is the best care for the patient is not aligned with what is the best that earnings for the doctor. And this lack of alignment, along with information asymmetry and uncertainty, is a toxic mix. And only social institutions can ameliorate it. And this is even more required in a situation where there is a notion of professional power and privilege on that. So essentially, to build institutions that are not market based, where clinical decisions and public health decisions are ring fenced from any notion of uh, exchange, of monetary exchange or profits, becomes a necessary condition in which healthcare rests. And therefore, there is a huge role to it. Even the relationship of healthcare is not a relationship between a manufacturer and a customer, or between a service provider and a client. Health, being healthy is something that happens. The health is generated at the level of a community, at the level of a family. It is socially conditioned, but definitely being healthy is a lot of what communities do. It is not to be equated with drugs, diseases, and the doctors, much less. So, in such a situation, the relationship between the doctor and the patient is a relationship of co producers, of service users, people who need to collaborate for the health of individuals, of families, and of communities. With the doctor, the Latin origin of the word is doctio, to teach, which really means that they share their knowledge and each are able to guide itself to this. Now, this is not only something that happens at the local or the community level. We heard the other examples. This solidarity necessarily also needs to extend across the world, across the global divides, across the global north and the global south. Again, a point that Tashi made so very well. And we saw this come into play in a more stark way when the COVID pandemic happened. Suddenly, people like the Director General was rediscovering the notion of healthcare and vaccines as global public goods. Such unlikely people as the President of France and the Prime Minister of Japan were suddenly espousing the notion of public goods. That was at a time when they were worried whether even they will access vaccines in time. And soon, no sooner had they accessed it, but they started forgetting those messages. But we really can't. And the people's movements at that time was an expression of what solidarity requires, as a very good example of what sort of solidarity works at the global level. It's not only people's movements. There were progressive governments. Costa Rica moved a resolution at that time asking for a different order of things. India and South Africa moved a joint resolution asking for the waiver of the TRIPS agreement with the clauses, which basically is the trade related intellectual property rights. So those had to be waived if different countries had to be able to transfer, absorb technology, and engage in vaccine production and the production of essential medical products. There was suddenly a recognition that no one is safe unless everyone is safe. This was a voice that we were hearing from the top pulpits on that. And this required, and there was a moment of great action when actually across the world a campaign was launched by different civil society organizations where a number of governments signed on. I think at last count it was more than 100 countries signed on. And the People's Health Movement played a major role in this campaign, pressing all the while with policy briefs and information and education as to why we need a system that is not based on market competition, but it is based on solidarity between people. Because we don't know who's next. And unless we hang together, we just hang separately on that. And that big notion of this was a very fundamental issue in the way we talked about this. I think that this whole understanding of having to work together and that markets don't really work and markets should not work and markets can be damaging. It can be damaging not only to this, it can be damaging to the harmony with the planet. It can be damaging to the development of people's creative potentials, and it always marginalizes. It needs a reserve army of unemployed and marginalized people for its own success. And therefore, at this particular reason, to build an alternative that is based around global solidarity, health is a very good starting point for such a dialogue and such pressure to be brought on it. So I think I will stop here and leave it to the questions. But I think this whole notion of health as necessarily having to exist with solidarity as one of its most important and central principles is something that is relevant even beyond the health sector. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ashish. And to the speakers, it's really, really engaging and lovely to hear these different stories on how you see solidarity, the gaps that between the institutions and the solidarity in the communities, and how each one of them thinks they are extending solidarity, but then the other ones doesn't actually interpret it as solidarity. These are the different ways we are engaging, and I can see there's so many questions in the chat, so I hope we have more time to cover all of them. I'll go with the first one from Gentina, and if you need to raise your hand and read these questions out or ask them, just do that as well. I will start with the first one with Jantina DeVries. She's also our co-investigator on the project. Says, thank you, Vimal, for compelling presentation. And nice to see you, Tashi and Professor Sundar. One of the aims of the project is to develop a solidarity index. Thinking about the community that you spoke to, what do you think a solidarity tool should do or aim to achieve or contain in order for it to support your people to demand solidarity or recognize its absence? In no particular order, if you're ready, you can start, Sundar.
So, well, I think the extent of inequity and the direction in which inequity is it growing, is it decreasing, is itself a very good reflection of whether the principle around which economic production and distribution is organized or a service is organized represents solidarity. The notion of solidarity in health should be first and foremost a reduction uh, of health inequities. That the poorest person with the most greatest vulnerability and greatest no load of illness should be able to access the same quality of care that a normal average person would be, and the system should be such that including the people who are better off, who are earning better, should concentrate on contribute to building a system where the poor don't have to pay more or suffer more. The best forms of solidarity, therefore, becomes a tax-based system where necessarily those who are wealthy get taxed more, especially if it's direct tax based or progressive tax based, and those who are poorer are paid less. And this tax is used as a form of social redistribution, whereas the well-off help those who are not so well off, and sick, non-sick help those who are sick. So I think this whole thing, I'm not too sure we need a separate solidarity index, but inequity indexes and the direction of growth of inequity, the extent of marginalization of certain communities, the fact that that is a condemnation of a society. Because if you can't, I mean, there's a great Tamil poet, I'm a Tamilian, and who said that a society where somebody goes to sleep hungry stands condemned as a society not fit for the world. Is even the actual poem reads, if even one person goes to sleep hungry, it condemns our society for what it is. So I think that's the spirit of this.
Thank you, Professor Sundar. I think this fills also into what Vimal, you said earlier, filling gaps of inequality. Please, Vimal, you can shed more light onto this.
Yes. Thank you so much, Professor Sundaraman. And it's so important, and you raised the issue of health, yes. But the health of sanitation workers in India, if you see, India has the second largest population in this world, of sanitation workers after China. And along with the health, not like in the physical health or the other disease, they're also suffering with the mental health. There is a mental health issue with that. So I think it's very important to work on the mental health and health of the sanitation workers in India and also in South Asia. To that, then only they can feel like valuable or feel like human in the society. Because right now they are not even feeling valuable or part of the society. They are excluded. So first, we need to focus on the health, mental health, and to engage them, to reach the goal of solidarity. which is very important. That so my concern is that about start from the bottom, in the society, and where most of the organization and the development sector in India, they avoid to talk about caste system. They deny. They said all is well in our country. We are all equal. We are all happy. There's no issue of caste. It's easy to say it like that, but difficult to accept the reality in our society. And without accepting that reality of caste and injustice in the society, we can't achieve any goal, actually. Yeah. So this is my concern about that. Yeah. Thank you.
I saw some questions in the chat box for me. One of the question is asking about because of this Gen Z protests in Nepal, what does the youth-driven action reveal about the nature of solidarity in solidarity in Nepal? I think if I were to describe it in a few words, then it would be that young people of Nepal is is considered as a very unserious generation. We would consider Gen Z is very much looked down upon in Nepal. I do not know about this, but here, for example, when I did my climate activism, the politicians would literally be telling us, "Oh, the children are crying, or they are complaining," rather than saying they have actually a real valid reasons to be, crying about. So we are very much looked down, underestimated generation here. And who underestimated us? Those who are in the decision making power, young people. Before this September protest, the young people's definition of young people in Nepal is from 18 to 40 years is young people. Now, if in my family, if I have somebody who is 40 years old, I would not call that person like, Gen Z or young. That would be my uncle or auntie. But, so I mean, every, if young youthfulness could be also a state of mind as well. But from an age perspective, so we were very much were not taken serious by the state, neither as a political actor nor as a non-political actor, and in such a way that they underestimated our agency, the young people's agency to come together and to fight the system. And how we came on the street, the solidarity was such kind of solidarity was achieved among young people across the world because of decentralization. If the protest is one of the most decentralized protests where anybody between the age, the Gen Z can participate in without having to ask who is leading it or can I join it. It's like if you want to join it, you can join it. There is space for you. The issue is anti-corruption, and that no one is owning it, or you're not contributing to somebody's political growth or career growth. You are actually contributing because you are convinced by the issue. So it's a very much issue driven and it's decentralized. So hence it was super very much successful. Had it been led by some particular phase during the protest, then people would be asking questions like, "Oh, why should I join his protest, his movement, rather than saying our movement?" But this movement, this solidarity, really become an issue of our issue. Young people are leaving the nation. Why? Why specifically young people? Yeah, the Nepal's unemployment rate is 20%, high, very high rate, and of that, majority of the people are newly college graduated people, and so all of that. So the system really look down upon us, really undermine our agency, and how we reclaim our agency is through the decentralized manner. So that's question one, and the question two was mostly about what's my advice to the young people from a marginalized community to engage the government. When you are when you are when you belong to a marginalized community, it's very difficult, much more difficult than just being a youth, because because even in the protests, in the Nepal's protest, the privileged youth wants to protest the government, because of corruption and all of that. The marginalized youth wants to protest against the government because of 10 more other reasons. So when you are young people from a marginalized background wanting to fight against the government, I wish you a lot of strength, and most importantly, I really want the young people across the world to be the best in whatever that they are doing. And realizing one's own fight is important. Not every issue is your cup of tea. For me, I chose climate activism, climate as my issue, to fight for my community. I want you, young people, to realize which is those issues that you can fight the most and in the best way possible, and that is the closest to your community and to you, rather than speaking on every issue, because this is we make so many mistakes. Young people, if you are coming from marginalized community, you have so many issues. There's a reason why you are marginalized, because there are so many issues levied against you and your community. And if you started to work on all of them, then you'll be exhausted. So I say know your issue and fight for it and be the best version, and always speak up, no matter how insignificant it sounds. It may be insignificant to others, but it's very important for yourself and your community and your ancestor that you speak up. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Tashi. You've saved us some time by answering, I think, a couple of questions in the chat. So thank you. And we hear that young people, especially now on this webinar, we're glad that we have a voice to represent the young people. And we can see that they increasingly need to take up these spaces, and we need to learn from them what it means. I think it resonates across the world, especially for young people. Thank you, Tashi. I will now move on to a question which was posed by Modesta Mensa for Vimal. I think it's a couple of questions, but we are going to try and maybe answer two of them in the interest of time, so we can try and go to the others as well. Is the caste system a political action, or is it a social one? And what is the Indian state doing about the situation?
Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for this question. And yes, we have affirmative actions in our constitution to support the marginalized communities like scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and the other, Dalit communities. Yes, we have in the constitution. As other countries have a lot of laws and acts in their constitution. But when it comes to the marginalized, it's difficult to access the right, which is already mentioned in the constitution. So if you don't have a political voice, political representation, you are not in education, you are not in academia, you are not in like policy making, so you don't have a voice. So if you don't have a voice, then you don't have a value. It's like that, you know. So in case of my community or the especially the sanitation worker, sweeper community in India, so they don't have representation in the system, in the political system as well, So there things are there in the constitution, but it's difficult to access the rights. And as you see the presentation, in my presentation, we already seen that the system of hierarchy, since generations, they are suffering with that. We still don't have educated people in our society. In one city, rarely we have a master student. So they are not even thinking about to get their rights. So we are working on that. Our movement is working on that. Movement for Scavenger community, which are leading to tell them these are their rights. This is the rights, and you can get that, but you have to put some efforts on that. Yeah. So this is in our society, and especially in the hierarchy, you can see when people are enjoying their power, by putting their feet on the other's head, and telling you are the superior than others, and making other people inferior in the society. So they don't want to lose their power. It's like a woman in the house, So women is working everything, in the house, cleaning, taking care of kids since generation, and now women are starting to raise their voice, for the equality and all. But men is not happy with that activities like feminism. So the same thing in the caste society as well. So they can't tolerate. They don't want them to raise their voice to access the equality, because they are enjoying their power on the behalf of their marginalization. Right? Yeah. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you, Vimal, and thank you for bringing us on the power differentials as well. Yes,
Yeah.
I will quickly look at Kushi Shema's question and I'll pose it to you, Sundar. How do different kinds of solidarities coexist or come into conflict?
So I'll take that quickly and the institution one. See, I think there's already a answer. There's no single definition of solidarity, but the broad spirit of the word, the value it represents is important. So there is solidarity at global level among nations, and there is a solidarity among peoples. The solidarity among nations is also mediated through international organizations, which presumably work on as an expression of solidarity, but too often are forms of control and are forms of being able to retain dominance on that. So I think at some point it is the way, to the extent that people's movements move forward with progressive governments to exercise a certain agency to challenge the existing hierarchy, it doesn't really happen. Which comes to the earlier question, which is about how institutional failure, how do you design institutions to build solidarity without reproducing existing hierarchies? Actually, I'm sorry to say that most institutions are designed to embed and retain and replicate hierarchy. Most institutions are institute structures for the distribution of power, allocation of power and resources, which, while appearing to be neutral, actually favor the dispensation. So they mediate, they act as a so called neutral empire. The question, therefore, is how do you challenge institutions or build alternative institutional designs that is able to challenge this? And if we accept that this is sort of inherent in institutions in a capitalist society, then how do you offer resistance to that? And one of the forms is to question the constitutional mandate for the institution. That's one level. What are the rules? What is the governing structure? But another level is also internal to it. What are the work processes? What is your process of hiring staff? What is the sort of gender balance that you are sustaining within the institution? How do you ensure that the institutions have access to knowledge that will make for a difference, to be able to show, say, for example, traditional knowledge can feed into institutional knowledge, or instead of only knowledge that comes from the metropolis of the international metropolis of knowledge? So how do you look at local community knowledge as a source? So those things are more in the work processes, the rules within the institution which you look at. And finally, there are the norms and cultures in which institutions are designed. So, if to the extent that we are conscious that institutions play a role in resisting hierarchies, we can think through ways in which we are able to resist that. And we find this in global institutions also. For example, the WHO. I mean, potentially it is a democratic multilateral institutions. All those institutions are under threat. But the only way that you can offer resistance is to fight to retain its multilateral character, to retain its representative character, not to concede it. It's a different question whether you win the fight today, but you must know the direction of movement. But at some point today, we are facing a threat on all multilateralism across the world, on global solidarity. There has been a retreat. There has been a reassertion of imperialist supremacy. A few countries that say we'll have it our way. Before they used to justify development aid as done in the good of everybody else. Now it is to make America great again. So I think that eventually you do need to think through ways in which we are able to bring together people's movements and progressive governments to continuously challenge the existing hierarchy and move towards one that is based on solidarity and not based on market power or sort of inherited or acquired. Thank you.
Very well said. And we are up on our time. I thank you so much for the speakers and for the participants for this active engagement. The conversation is rich. We'll continue to have these questions in the chat and look into them as a project as well. And right now, it is a pleasure to invite Professor Caesar. Caesar, if you can come in and give us your reflections in a minute or two about the discussion today and what we're doing as a project, that would be great. Over to you.
Well, thank you very much. In a minute or two, it's going to be very difficult to summarize the great conversation that we've had this morning. I'm really grateful to Tashi, to Vimal, and to Sundar, because I think they've, elaborated on certain points that are crucial for our understanding of solidarity and this work that we're trying to do to recapture really the fact that, health as a co-produced good requires solidarity, and that we should not, as it were, sell our health to market structures, which is what is happening. Because if we do that, what I see here is that we then generate a community and societies of expendables, because market capitalism produces expendables. And that is where we then have the discriminations that are reinforced, and certain people's health and their lives no longer matter. And the whole system works to, as it were, defend or promote a certain category and not everybody. And this is where I think, coming together in different solidarities, but working with this concept of, solidarity, but in our different solidarities, we could make a very difference. And I really want to thank once again our speakers. This has been marvelous, and everybody else for joining this conversation and staying on. It's unfortunate we haven't been able to answer all the questions. There were so many questions, but we will have to pick up on these questions as we go along.